Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom, and welcome to the month of December. We're going to kick off this month with an all-English unit, and it's a News Watch unit as well. We're talking about things that are going on around the world. First of all, we're going to go to France and talk about something called fast fashion. I'm sure you've heard of that. And then we're also going to talk about whales in the deep blue sea.
Yeah, real difference in articles today. Remember, these are news stories. So we're going to take a first look at something that's going on in the country of France. France's bold, ultra-fast fashion ban. Something's getting banned. If you ban something, you say it's not allowed. It's a rule that stops people from doing something. And ultra-fast fashion is even faster than just fast fashion. Fast fashion is when they are producing a lot of clothes that are usually only good for one season. And then people, discard them, throw them out, and they go to the store and they buy some more stuff. And it's producing a lot of garbage. It's not a good thing. Ultra here, it just means very or extremely. So it's extremely fast fashion. And France is trying to ban this, trying to do their part, I guess, on helping our planet and the environment as well.
Okay, so let's get to it. Let's listen to the contents of our lesson, and we'll be right back to discuss it.
News Watch. France's bold ultra-fast fashion ban. France is taking bold action to crack down on the booming world of ultra-fast fashion through new strict legislation. The initiative comes as mounting criticism and environmental awareness grow across Europe, prompting governments to implement tougher measures against unsustainable consumer habits. Ultra-fast fashion refers to the industry of companies that manufacture vast quantities of cheap, trendy clothing at record speed. This business model floods markets with disposable garments that harm both the environment and exploit workers around the world. France's revolutionary law mainly targets Shein and Temu. Under the new regulations, these companies must disclose the environmental impact and carbon footprint of each garment they produce. By 2030, they could face substantial penalties of at least €10, about 350 NT dollars, per item, potentially reaching up to 50% of the product's selling price. Additionally, advertising ultra-fast fashion will be prohibited, and influencers endorsing these brands could encounter serious fines. It stands as Europe's most systematic legislative move against fast fashion and could steer the global fashion industry toward a more sustainable future.
Orcas get spa day. Scientists discover kelp massages. In the waters off the Pacific Northwest, researchers have discovered that southern resident orcas, a type of killer whale, use kelp to massage one another. They bite off pieces of kelp and press them against a companion's body, working together to create a rubbing motion. Scientists have coined the term allokelping to describe this remarkable behavior. The study, conducted by the Centre for Whale Research and the University of Exeter in the UK and published in Current Biology, suggests that allokelping serves both practical and social purposes. This practice is typically seen in orcas with more visible skin peeling, indicating they may be trying to relieve an itch. In addition, it strengthens social bonds often being observed between mothers and their children or peers of a similar age. Scientists compare the behavior to primates grooming each other, an intimate trust-building interaction. So far, this kelp massaging culture appears unique to the southern resident orcas, but researchers plan to use advanced technology to explore whether other whale populations exhibit similar cultural practices.
Okay, guys, let's dive in. This is France's bold, ultra-fast fashion ban we're talking about. France is taking bold action to crack down on the booming world of ultra-fast fashion. How are they doing this? Well, they're passing new, very strict legislation. It's bold because they're not afraid to stand out or take risks. You might have some friends that are kind of bold and others who are the opposite, which is very shy, and they don't say much. They're kind of quiet. But if someone's bold, they're not afraid of getting attention. So France is really taking some bold action here because everybody loves fashion. Well, not everybody, I guess. A lot of people do, especially the women out there that are listening. And some people are really very sensitive about wearing something that's not up to date. They might feel like it's a little old-fashioned. My advice to some of our listeners is buy classic styles. Buy things that don't go out of fashion overnight. That covers your bases a little bit better. But this is something they're doing through legislation. Legislation includes laws that are made by the government. So they would have to go through either something that their government may have a parliamentary system, or it might have something more closely aligned with the U.S. system, which is Congress. But it has to be passed to be put into law.
Exactly. So again, we're talking about fast fashion, but even more ultra-fast fashion. So we've got to deal with a new term yet again. And if fashion gets even faster than that, well, we might have to call it super fast fashion or whatever. And if it slows down a little bit, maybe it's medium speed fashion. And if it's really slow, it'll be slow fashion. You figure it out. But again, we're talking about clothes that are cheaply produced and you can buy them rather cheaply. So you can be fashionable pretty much anytime, all day long, or, you can change day to day or whatever. And we're talking about this new legislation. So we're also calling it an initiative, which is like a new law that's trying to bring about a change. So the initiative comes as mounting criticism and environmental awareness grow across Europe, prompting governments to implement tougher measures against unsustainable consumer habits. Whew, that's a long sentence, so let's break it down here. It begins by saying the initiative comes as mounting criticism and environmental awareness grows, okay? Or grow, because there are two things there. And criticism, of course, is when people say that something's wrong. Hey, that's not right. We shouldn't let people do that. It's causing damage to the environment. You guys shouldn't be doing that. Something needs to be done. So there is more and more criticism. It's mounting criticism. And then, of course, the Europeans are very environmentally aware. Of course, in Germany especially, they sort their garbage and things like that. So, of course, you can't litter there. And they try to keep the place clean and tidy because they have that environmental awareness. Again, that's growing across Europe. And because of these two things, it's prompting governments to do something. If you're prompted to do something, you are stimulated to do that thing. You have to react to something. So the government says, well, if these people are making these demands, we better do something about it.
Yeah, if you are ever on the stage and you're in a play, perhaps, and you forget your line, you forget what you're supposed to say, you might have someone on the side giving you some prompts. They prompt you. They give you some lines that you can use to keep going. So, yeah, prompting just means to get somebody to do something, right? Sometimes we need prompting to keep our bedrooms tidy and clean as we're growing up. Those are some ways that people will prompt us. This is prompting governments to implement or put into action tougher measures. Measure here is just another word for initiative, something that they do that will fight against unsustainable consumer habits. If it's not sustainable, it means you can't keep going on like this. It's going to cause too much environmental problems and disaster. It's producing a lot of garbage, let's be honest. So we're going to look at this particular issue here. So ultra fast, Tom came up with some other words for that. You could say turbo speed. It's just fashion that turns around so quickly. It's usually made quite cheaply. It's not the nice clothes. If you go into the very expensive shops or stores, you're not going to find fast fashion. It's these stores like H&M. I'm not going to name stores here in Taiwan, but yeah, it's at these stores that most of us can afford to shop in.
Isn't H&M in Taiwan? I think
we do have an H&M here now. Right. Yeah, so it's these kind of stores there's a Zarbo. What is that one called?
Yeah, that one from Spain.
No,
I know
Zara.
what you're talking about.
Zara.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's one in the 101 Center,
Hey,
actually.
I've shopped in Zara, I'll be honest. So this is a problem because we're just coming up with really huge quantities of cheap, trendy clothing at record speed. Vast here is one of our vocabulary words. It just means really large in size or amount. Maybe you have a vast collection of CDs or LPs, the old-fashioned record that we used to play. I have a vast collection of plants in my apartment that I love. So you can have vast collections or quantities of lots of different things. Here we're talking about cheap, trendy. Trendy means fashionable, up to date, in style type of clothing, and they're making it at record speed.
Yeah, I did want to say vast here. My wife has a vast collection of pretty much everything. It's almost difficult to walk inside the house with all her stuff there. But in any case here, we're talking about vast quantities of cheap, trendy clothing, and they're doing this at record speed. They're just churning this stuff out. They're probably manufacturing it in third world countries like maybe Bangladesh or places like that. And this business model floods markets with disposable garments that harm both the environment and exploit workers around the world. If something's disposable, you use it just once, and then you throw it away. Like men use disposable razors. I guess women use them too. Or babies use disposable diapers, etc. A garment, of course, is just something you wear. It could be a shirt. It could be trousers, pants, socks, or whatever. Garments are just pieces of clothing. And yes, indeed, we have all of these items being produced at record speed, so they can both harm the environment and also they can exploit workers around the world. So people in various third world countries work in these sweatshops, as we call them, working maybe 15 hours a day or something and getting paid only the equivalent of $1 a day or something like that, whatever the salary is. So we're talking about exploiting the workers, using them too much for your own gain.
I wanted to mention garments here, what the difference between this word and, say, clothing might be. Garment is usually used as a more sophisticated word, I think, for clothes. I would never say, oh, I want to buy some new garments. I would just say, I want to buy some new clothes. So garment is often used by people who work in the industry, in the clothing industry, in the fashion industry. Notice it's countable, guys. Clothes is not. Clothing is not countable, but garments is. So it's kind of a cool word to use if you actually are looking to move into that particular industry and work, the fashion industry or maybe the textile industry. They use garments a lot in that industry, too.
Isn't there a garment district in New York City where they manufacture lots of clothes?
It's on 28th Street. I could tell you where it is.
Okay, maybe you can get some bargains there if you're in the Big Apple. Let's move on now to the third paragraph here. It says, France's revolutionary law mainly targets Shein and Temu.
Shein.
Shein. Okay, that makes sense because we got she there and in put together. If you don't know that, you would probably read that as shine, using German pronunciation sensibilities. But here it's Shein and Temu. I hope I said that as well.
That's
I guess
correct.
These are two ultra fast fashion companies.
Yeah, these are two companies that originate from China. So I think the Shein is probably similar to the Chinese. It's probably more She, if I'm going to guess.
Okay.
But I haven't seen the Chinese characters. I bet our listeners know. But these are two big online companies that do business around the world. They're global. And most people who see these particular names know that you can get cheap products from them. So they don't last very long, I'm just going to say. I have some experience with Shein, but not Temu. But I've heard things from my friends. So under the new regulations, these laws that are passed, these companies must disclose or reveal. You're revealing some sort of truth or fact that other people might not have known about. The environmental impact and carbon footprint of each garment they produce. They have to tell the government, well, when we make this, this is how many hours we're using up on this. These are the materials that we're using. This is how much electricity and your carbon footprint, of course, involves a lot of different things. So they have to report these things. So that's a lot of extra work. And what that's going to do is they're going to make these items of clothing more expensive. And so they won't be selling as many.
Right. And maybe people will buy clothes that they can wear more often and not worry so much about looking different every day. Get rid of all that vanity, people. You don't need so many clothes. Like me, I wear basically the same T-shirts every day.
You're a guy. You're a guy, Tom.
There are different ones, of course. But hey, maybe ladies could do that too and try to be different with, a bubbly personality or something instead of relying on your clothes like birds do. But by the year 2030, they could face substantial penalties of at least $10, 10 euros.
10 euros.
Which is about 350 NT dollars per item. A penalty, of course, is just something you have to suffer for because you did something wrong. You have penalties in sports, for example. In American football, there are penalties. If you have a late hit on the quarterback, there's a penalty for that. Or in hockey, there's a penalty if you trip somebody or something like that. You get put in the penalty box for 2 minutes. But in this particular case, we're talking about fines or penalties, which do sound quite expensive here per item. And that could reach up to 50% of the product's selling price. So that is rather a severe punishment.
Yeah, I imagine. Of course, these governments are going to get more money. But it's going to hurt those consumers who are really into this fast fashion. And it's going to just cost a lot more money if you want to buy these products that they're selling. Additionally, advertising ultra-fast fashion will be prohibited. Oh, the advertising companies out there aren't going to be very happy about this. And if you're into social media platforms like Instagram or IG, as you guys call it, they're going to ban these influencers from endorsing these brands. So they can't talk about Shein or Temu because they'll be in trouble and they can encounter serious fines. A fine and a penalty are very much in the same kind of category, but if you see the word fine, you know it involves money. Whereas a penalty, we don't know for sure what the penalty will be. If it's in sports, it could be they just have to go and sit on the bench and not get to keep playing. For example, the fouls in basketball, they have to go and sit on the bench. But
well,
here,
that's if they have 5 fouls and
that's
they
if they
get
have
kicked out
5.
of the game. Yeah.
Well, they're
foul out.
Yes. But if you push someone down and stuff, that's pretty serious stuff. So a fine, though, means money that you have to pay for breaking some sort of rule.
Exactly. And it stands as Europe's most systematic legislative move against fast fashion and could steer the global fashion industry toward a more sustainable future. So it stands as Europe's most systematic legislative move. Okay, so if it stands, that means it represents this, or at least you can see that thing. This is a move or an action by the European governments here. It's very systematic, which means it's focused on one particular issue in the economy there. This one, of course, is ultra-fast fashion. And if it's legislative, well, it stands, or at least it has something to do with legislation, laws in governments and things like that. And it is against fast fashion, and it could be very influential. It could cause the global fashion industry to have a more sustainable future. You can debate this amongst yourselves, whether this will be effective or not. People are vain, they want to look cool, they want to look chic, so it's going to be very difficult to fight that. I wonder what's going to happen with that.
We don't know. It's going to be interesting. I follow someone on YouTube who is into sustainable clothing. She sews, so that's why I watch her. But she talks about this a lot. She's talked about it for years. So I've known of the problem, but I think that it's gotten so bad that some of these countries are going to have to put their foot down and make some of these laws. It's kind of sad. I like freedom in this world. I say less government instead of more. So we'll see what happens. And if it's going to affect the rest of Europe, I don't think this will pass in the U.S., just knowing how Americans are. But it could steer that global fashion industry into a more sustainable future, and that's not a bad thing. Let's take a break right now, but no Chinese teacher. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to now talk about another news story. It's about whales in the ocean, and whales don't really have to worry too much about fast fashion. They wear the same clothes their entire lives, the skin around their bodies or whatever.
And it's waterproof too, Tom.
Indeed. Of course, as they get older, they might get wrinkles and things like that, but I guess they don't mind too much. And today we're talking about something called a spa day for orcas. A spa, of course, is where you go to get a massage or soak in a jacuzzi or something like that, or go in the sauna or whatever to get healthier. And in this particular case, they were talking about kelp massages. Okay, kelp is a kind of plant that grows in the ocean. They kind of grow pretty tall from the ocean floor.
It's a seaweed.
Yeah, like a seaweed. There's a big display at the aquarium down in Checheng or Kending. They've got a big kelp window there. That's pretty cool, pretty awesome to look at. And in this particular case, though, they're using kelp to massage each other, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I loved reading about this. Learning about animal behaviors is kind of fun. So in the waters off the Pacific Northwest, we've got some researchers, some scientists, and they've discovered that southern resident orcas, these are orcas that live in the southern Pacific, it's a type of killer whale, so it's really, really big. Tom and I grew up in a time when these amusement parks like SeaWorld would have big orcas you could go and see, and they would perform tricks. I always felt kind of bad for them even then because they were stuck in a very kind of small tank of water. But it is a type of killer whale. It's huge, and they use kelp to massage one another. So I guess they pick up kelp that has been torn off from the plant itself and use that by biting off pieces and pressing them against a companion's body. So they just press that seaweed onto the body of the whale next to them, and they work together to create a rubbing motion. If you rub, you, for example, can move your hand back and forth from side to side. You could also say they're stroking or they're pressing that kelp, but they're going back and forth, and they work together to create the rubbing motion. And so one must have to move or both move at the same time. I don't know. Scientists have coined the term allokelping, and this is a new word. If you see this phrase, coin the term, it means they created it. It never existed before. This is a brand new word or phrase. Someone can coin a term. And this is describing this really remarkable behavior. It's kind of crazy to think about this.
This sort of reminds me of some phrases we have in English about cooperating with other people. For example, if I say, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, okay, which means we're beneficially advantageous to each other. We can help each other out.
Yeah.
Another phrase is one hand washes the other, okay? One hand cannot wash itself, so of course we need to cooperate there. The hands need to cooperate in order to wash each other. And that's probably what they're doing here. I suppose one orca whale will scratch the skin of the other one, and then they'll switch roles and trade around, and they'll scratch each other's backs. Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, the study conducted by the Center for Whale Research and the University of Exeter in the UK and published in Current Biology suggests that allokelping serves both practical and social purposes. Okay, so we've got some people scuba diving in the ocean, and they've looked at these whales, and they saw them doing this. They took notes, and then they went back and did some research and gathered all the information together. I think Exeter is in southwest England, if I'm not mistaken, because there's a lot of ocean around there.
I know it's south because I've passed it.
Okay, indeed. So, yeah, it's probably next to the ocean, so they probably do some research in the ocean there in the English Channel. And this was published in Current Biology. So if something is published, that means it comes out in a magazine or a book. I suppose you could publish things online as well, since most people are reading digital files these days on their phones or whatever. Magazines are still out there, but most people read their information on their phones. And this is a magazine called Current Biology. I guess they probably also have a website as well. And that research suggests that allokelping has two purposes. One is for practical purposes, and the other one is social. If it's practical, it needs to be done, okay? It's something that has to be done. Hey, I'm scratching here. Can you itch me? Can you scratch me because I have an itch here? Help me out. I need this done. It's a practical need that I have. And then it could be social. Hey, if you do that for me, I'll do that for you, and we can become buddies for life.
Yeah, so it says that they see this when the orcas have visible skin peeling. If your skin's peeling, that top layer is coming off, and that can be really irritating, even for humans. I'm surprised that their skin peels because they're in the water all the time, and their skin is like blubbery, kind of rubber feeling. So this indicates they may be trying to relieve an itch. Tom did something that you'll often hear in America where we confuse scratch and itch. Itch is the feeling that makes you kind of crazy. You want to scratch an itch. You don't want an itch, a scratch. Don't get those confused. So sometimes I'll hear kids say, oh, I'm going to itch my arm. No, you're going to scratch your arm because it itches. So an itch can be a verb or a noun. You know, it's itching. I guess that's more like a gerund there. It's itching. But in addition, what happens is that's the practical use of this allocalping. But with the social purposes that they said, they talked about, it says it strengthens social bonds. Your social bonds is your friendship with other people, how you take care of each other, how you watch out for each other, how you care for each other. And this was often being observed between mothers and their kids, of course. So the mama orca would often be using some kelp to help relieve her children. Maybe they were itching, or maybe they needed some skin to kind of peel off. And so that seaweed or kelp was helping in that way. Or who else does this, Tom?
Peers, okay? So, of course, peers, are people who are in the same station or a level of life. For example, if you're a high school student, well, your peers would be in other countries, or your peers at other high schools around Taiwan or whatever. They're people in different places, but they're in the same position that you are. So, yeah, these are peers. They could be friends who are the same age. They're buddies. You know, maybe they work at the same factory or something like that, or they, have the same bowling club or whatever. They're peers. And they're friends, they're buddies, and yes, indeed, they can do this to each other, and they can be BFF, best friends for life. Oh, no, best friends forever.
I wouldn't consider my boss a peer. Usually, they have to be an equal level to you or the same age. Even if my boss is my age, if my boss is definitely my supervisor, I would consider them not to be just a peer. They're a little bit above me in that work level we're talking about. It's not because they're a better person or anything. It's just they have a higher position in the workplace. So scientists compare the behavior to primates grooming each other, which is an intimate, trust-building interaction. Have you ever seen those primates, those monkeys or apes, and they're cleaning each other's fur? It's kind of cute, but they're helping each other out. We call that grooming, where the primates help each other as they try to, make their coats or their skin clean and their fur, I guess, cleaner than it was before. This is similar to that, and that's what the scientists are comparing it to.
Yeah, humans do grooming as well. We take care of our hair and stuff, or our facial hair or whatever. So in this particular case, the primates, which would be apes, are grooming each other. And that is an intimate, trust-building interaction. So they trust each other to do this because you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And if you don't trust them, they could attack you and kill you from behind. So that's why it builds trust. So far, up to now, this kelp massaging culture appears unique to the southern resident orcas, but researchers plan to use advanced technology to explore whether other whale populations exhibit similar cultural practices. So I guess these southern resident orcas could be a subspecies of orcas that live in different parts of the ocean. They may be slightly different from ones in other parts of the world, but they're trying to check this out and see if whales of other species like the humpback whale, the blue whale, the sperm whale, narwhals, or whatever. They're trying to find out whether these whales do it as well.
Interesting. So remember, the southern resident orcas, they live in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe there's more kelp there. I don't know. Maybe they itch more in this area. I don't know. I'm not an orca expert, but they are using advanced technology to look at or explore whether other whale populations that Tom mentioned exhibit similar cultural practices. If you exhibit something, this just means you're clearly showing something to be true. It could be that you're displaying something, you're demonstrating something. Here they're exhibiting. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled to see if we see more news about allokelping among other types of whales, or maybe just other species in general. It's interesting.
Right. And this topic, of course, is of great interest to people here in Taiwan because, of course, you've got whales swimming along the oceans here in Taiwan. So you better know about the behavior of whales, because if you don't know about their behavior, they might get mad and come on land and try to attack you. So please be careful. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. That's it for our all English unit for the month of December. Thanks for joining us, and make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.